Our next presentation is Dominating E-Commerce Search with Keith Anderson, SVP of Strategy and Insight for Profitero. Keith, take it away.
John, thank you. Thanks as always to the conference organizers and to everybody for joining us. I'm Keith Anderson. I lead product strategy and the analyst team that supports our clients here at Profitero. We're an e-commerce performance analytics partner and Nielsen's exclusive e-commerce analytics partner. And I've got a relatively deep dive for you today on a topic that in past sessions we've touched on briefly, but as the e-commerce channel continues to mature and CPG brands get more sophisticated in supporting their retailers and performing in the channel, it's become increasingly clear that e-commerce search is one of, if not the most important things to understand and to focus on. So we're going to discuss briefly why e-commerce search matters so much, how to develop a strategy, and really how to execute somewhat tactically so that when shoppers search for your brands or for terms or phrases related to your category, you end up at the top of the page where people are looking. We'll speak briefly as well about what's on the horizon. You know, I think many of us are at least aware of, if not actively using, Amazon's Echo and some of the other voice assistants, and there's certainly some interesting developments on the horizon. So I briefly want to introduce a distinction between a couple different models of e-commerce site. These may be familiar terms or they may not be, and we didn't create the term spear phishing. I'm not exactly sure where it originated, but I think it comes from the Amazon culture, and it refers to the shopper behavior of going to Amazon or another national ship e-commerce site with a very large assortment with something in mind. So it's less about discovery or browsing, and it's more about searching really intently for one or two items, and that's where the term spear phishing comes from. You know, you've got a precise spear and you're looking for something specific. So when we use this term spear phishing, we're referring to not only Amazon, but Walmart.com, Jet, Target.com, any site that offers an endless aisle with massive selection and that typically has order sizes of one or two items. Data from the University of Sheffield that's corroborated by data from other sources suggests that search is the dominant pathway to your products at those spear phishing retailers. And then there are full basket retailers that are inherently local and unlike spear phishing models that only offer ambient or shelf-stable goods, these click and collect or local delivery models, of course, offer perishable, frozen, chilled food products. Order sizes tend to be larger, and at those models, browsing and purchasing from a favorites list tends to be equally important as search. So we're going to focus today primarily on the importance of search, but I don't want to suggest it's the only area to focus on when it comes to making sure shoppers can find your products. And I think while you of course want to focus on search across your entire customer portfolio, there's no question Amazon is the premier destination for product research. This is data from Bloomreach, released last year, that highlights that more shoppers begin their product search on Amazon than even Google, which has implications for Google's business model, of course. But I think the key for today's discussion is that whether or not shoppers are ultimately buying the product that they discover on Amazon or they're looking for on Amazon, they're certainly starting their research there, whether it ends there or not. And so whether you're directly responsible for e-commerce as a distribution channel, we find brand managers, category managers, anyone who's responsible for the distribution or the presentation of the brand should be paying attention. And at Amazon in particular, but at many retailers, there's a virtuous cycle, often called the flywheel effect, and this is a significant simplification of that effect. But success breeds success with search, because among the many factors that influence your position when someone searches for cola or soft drinks is sales. And so naturally, the better your position in search results, the more traffic you'll get, and assuming your product is in demand and your content presents the product clearly, you're likely to sell more. And the more you sell, the likelier you are to have a good position for that search term. So this sets up not only the importance of search, but it also underscores why once a brand or an individual product establishes a foothold for a key term, it can start to create a competitive moat that certainly isn't indefensible, but is really powerful. So I'm going to introduce a simple framework for how you can plan and execute to win in e-commerce search, and I think the natural starting point has to be identifying the most relevant keywords to your portfolio of products. So if you think about search, many brands, particularly brands that have a heritage doing traditional Google search engine optimization, start with hundreds, if not thousands, of keywords that they want to analyze and outperform for. But the huge distinction between traditional Google search and searches at Amazon or other e-commerce retailers is that they're much deeper in the purchase funnel. That is, by the time people are at Amazon, they generally have either a specific item in mind, or at least a brand, or at least a key product characteristic or attribute that brought them to Amazon's site. And in fact, there is a lot of density of traffic to a relatively small number of keywords that are relevant to any given brand or product. And because optimizing your content and some of the other factors that influence your search position at Amazon and other online retailers is a bit more manual, it's a bit labor intensive in contrast to Google SEO, you really can't pragmatically prioritize hundreds or thousands of terms at once. Instead, you're better served by identifying the terms that are heavily trafficked and that are relevant to your portfolio and prioritizing those keywords to win. Now, of course, if you win your top 10 or your top 20 or your top 30 terms, by all means, we encourage our clients to expand the list of terms that they're prioritizing. But unlike Google, where you can automate SEO, especially paid search, it's a lot more cumbersome to manage your performance for a large number of terms at the digital shelf. And so you'll want to identify keywords that are being searched more frequently than others, that have relevance to your products and your brand, and focus on those first. There are generally two types of keywords that you will find. General keywords are unbranded keywords. They tend to be, keywords like cereal, often including a product attribute or characteristic like gluten-free cereal. They are very frequently searched because they transcend individual brands, and they're also very competitive. So it's reasonable to expect that you'll get somewhere around your fair share of the first page of results for a general keyword. In other words, if your share of total category sales across all distribution channels is 20%, we might encourage you to target getting 20% share of that first result page for a relevant term. Branded keywords reference specific brands. So instead of searching for chocolate, someone might search for M&Ms. And these are especially important to small brands or emerging brands that may not be number 1, 2, or 3 in their category. And they're also particularly important in categories like baby and grocery, but grocery in particular. On the right, you'll see we analyzed some data at Amazon specifically, comparing the most frequently searched keywords in these categories for the month of March. And you can see, certainly in grocery, almost 40% of the most frequently searched keywords reference specific brands. And so, in contrast to unbranded terms or general terms, you want as close to 100% of share of the first results page for searches for your specific brand. And really the only limitation is whether you have enough relevant items in distribution at that retailer to capture that full results page. In other words, if there are 24 products listed on a result page for a search term, if you have fewer than 24 relevant products, you obviously can't capture 100%, but your goal should be to capture as close to 100% of those terms as possible. And as we'll discuss briefly when we talk about paid search at the digital shelf, it is sort of the Wild West. Not unlike Google, there are both organic and paid listings, and one of the increasingly common tactics among competitors is to bid on your competitor's brand, so that when someone searches for brand A, brand B is actually among the first items listed on the page. So we'll revisit that strategy, but it's really important at a basic level that you understand which terms are being searched most frequently, both general and branded, and again, that you prioritize among both types the terms that are searched most frequently and that are the most relevant to your portfolio.
Keith, I had a question that came in real quick here. How important is search compared to other performance drivers for brands in the e-commerce channel?
It's a great question. I think as you look at the breadth of things that one could focus on to drive performance, there's your search position and product content, ratings and reviews, stock availability, pricing, promotion, other display ads and marketing vehicles. I would tell you that if you try to simplify and look at performance through the lens of a funnel, it's not unlike traditional retail. You need to attract enough shoppers, which is typically measured as traffic, and then you need to convert enough of the traffic, and finally you want to make sure that you're converting that traffic profitably. And so at the top of that funnel sits all of these pathways to your product that cumulatively represent traffic. So if your products aren't available, you're either not listing the right products with the retailer or they're out of stock. That's the ultimate deal breaker. But after you've solved for getting the right range in distribution with the right retailers, if nobody sees your products, no one can buy. So we put search close to the top of the list of performance drivers worth focusing on. And certainly, as we noted at the outset, that's only through the lens of driving performance at Amazon or with online retailers in and of themselves. Again, when you look at the percentage of product research that originates on Amazon and all the data that has accumulated showing the influence the digital shelf has over offline retail, you absolutely want to be findable. So once you know the keywords that you want to focus on, you need to measure your performance. And you've heard me mention a couple times now how important it is to be on the first result page. So I just want to briefly introduce a couple of KPIs and define them. Page placement refers to the page of results that you're on, and you want to be on page one. No question, more than anything else, particularly at an item level, you want every item you sell to rank on the first result page for the most relevant general and branded keywords related to it. Secondly, numerical ranking refers to what position on that page your product holds. So generally speaking, the higher up on the page you are, the better off you'll be. But as I'll highlight in a moment, unquestionably, the most important thing is to get on page one. There are some things that are also interesting and important to measure. You do want to be able to distinguish between organic and sponsored results. It can be very helpful to identify third-party sellers of your products, which is a factor on Amazon and Jet and any other platform that allows third-party sellers to list items alongside the retailer itself. And then at Amazon in particular, there are badges like bestseller indicators and add-on items or prime pantry eligibility, various programs that can be a factor in search position. We think of those as secondary and more related to what influences search position than what you're really trying to optimize for, which is your position. So I want to share why we feel so strongly that page one position is so key. We analyzed the impact of migrating a product from the second page of search results to the first page of search results and analyzed it by keyword frequency. So to the left are keywords that are in the sort of lowest percentile by search frequency, and to the right are the keywords that are in the highest percentile of search frequency. In other words, people are searching those specific terms more often. And what we find is if you're able to successfully migrate an item from page 2 of results to page 1 of results for among the highest frequency keywords, you'll see an almost immediate lift of anywhere from 65 to 100% increase in sales. And overall, the lift is around 34%. So as we drill into what you should be optimizing for, there's no question getting to page 1 should be the primary objective. And secondly, climbing page 1 can yield an additional 10 to 30% lift on top of the lift you'll get from jumping from page 2 to page 1. But if you had 10 items, half of which were on page 1 at the bottom and half of which were on page 2, we would tell you focus first on getting all those items to page 1 rather than getting the 5 items on page 1 to the top. So I hope that's clear, but to summarize, your mission is get your items to page 1, wherever they are on that page, for the most frequently searched keywords above all. And once you've got your products on those first results page, then you can start focusing either on less frequently searched keywords, or you can optimize at the margins to try to climb page 1. But there's no question the lift is much greater for getting from page 2 to page 1 than for climbing from the bottom of page 1 to the top of page 1. So there are these other factors that can influence search placement, sponsored results, third-party sellers, Amazon badges. I think for the sake of analyzing your performance broadly, we encourage people to look at organic and paid search separately. So focus on organic results when you're prioritizing your organic search position. Pay attention to third-party sellers. There's some guidance here for how you can impact that, but it gets a bit in the weeds. And thirdly, you do want to understand which items get which badges, and Amazon's choice is the one that we're paying very close attention to because at the digital shelf, when people are searching on a laptop or on their phone, Amazon's choice is a pretty compelling indication that an item is worth buying. But perhaps more importantly over time, it reflects the item likely to be listed first for a voice search. So if someone is an Echo owner and asks Alexa, order paper towels, the first result Alexa will return will be Amazon's choice for that search keyword. So it's important to pay attention today, despite how early we are in the transition to voice search, to know what are the items that are being badged as Amazon's choice. Okay, so we now know how to identify the keywords that matter. We know that we want to be on page 1 for those keywords. Now we want to optimize the factors that actually influence that position. And there are sort of 3 areas in the broad sense that are worth prioritizing. The first is optimizing the categories that your products are listed in and the content on your product detail pages. That includes titles, feature bullets, description, and at Amazon there are some hidden fields that you can populate with keywords, all of which collectively impact relevance. And relevance is the algorithmic linkage between a given search term or keyword and the products that are associated with that keyword. Traffic and sales, as we said at the beginning, are also a factor. And then finally, if you've optimized for number 1 and number 2, fundamentals like making sure you're continuously in stock and making sure that your products have an adequate number of reviews, typically 50 or more, and ideally between a 4 and a 4.5 average star rating, then those can give you a little additional juice. I see a quick question that came through.
Yeah, I see that.
Amazon Choice stamp.
Sure. And to receive the Amazon Choice stamp, is this all based off top search and top reviews?
Those are among the factors. From what we can tell, Amazon's Choice is a combination of relevance, price, star rating, and sales. So lower priced items seem to be favored. There is what appears to be a minimum star rating, so items that are not well reviewed are not going to end up as Amazon's Choice. And we can clearly see an association between bestseller ranks or sales of an item and the awarding of that Amazon Choice badge.
Okay.
So just a few really tactical recommendations for optimizing relevance. You want to pay very careful attention to the way that your items are categorized. And what I mean is when you're listing a new item at Amazon or any other retailer, be certain that it's listing within the Amazon taxonomy or the retailer's taxonomy as accurately as possible reflects where it belongs. Because at many retailers, where an item is listed in the hierarchy in the taxonomy has impacts on search results. Secondly, in each of these fields, product title, feature bullets, description, you want to input the right terms, but you want to be very careful not to keyword stuff. So you don't want your copy to read unnaturally, but you do want the most frequently searched keywords that are relevant to the product to be reflected there. But as I mentioned, don't overstuff titles, descriptions, and feature bullets. And don't forget to include branded keywords. I think a lot of manufacturers historically have assumed that a product simply being associated with the brand is enough, but we find actually including the brand in the product title and in the description at least once is a factor in results. And so this data gives you a bit of detail on how to optimize for Amazon specifically, both general and branded keywords, and some of the structural elements of those fields that are most correlated with traffic to your product pages. And somewhat counterintuitively, shorter titles for generic keywords are actually better. That is, I think in the early days of e-commerce, a lot of people expected that he who has the longest product title with the most keywords will win. But our thesis is that as more and more shoppers are searching and buying on tablets and smartphones where the screen space is more limited, product titles that have just the essential information so that almost at a glance with that image thumbnail and a little bit of text, a shopper can identify that the product listed in that search result page is the right product. We see the optimal results from titles between 45 and 60 characters. And so the essential elements are the relevant keywords, brand, pack count, sub-brand, pack size, and so on. So I'm not going to go through all of the detail here. You'll have access to these slides. But this is pretty prescriptive in terms of how to optimize titles for search placement. Okay, let's spend a few minutes now on paid search. In paid search, just as with Google and Bing and other traditional search engines, paid search is an increasingly important tactic at Amazon, Walmart, and other online retailers. At Amazon, there's a program called Amazon Marketing Services, or AMS, which is a self-service paid search tool, and companies like HookLogic and others let you do very similar things at many other online retailers. And so assuming you've optimized your position for organic search listings and you've got the budget, you're likely going to want to pay to play. And so one way to pay is indirect, and that is increasing sales by using lightning deals, which is a specific promotional vehicle at Amazon, or vendor-powered coupons or other promotions, so that you're temporarily and hopefully incrementally driving sales for those items, which, as we've shared, impacts your organic search results. But secondly, you may want to directly pay to play by sponsoring products or using banner ads. And either of these strategies can be valid depending on which KPI is more important to you. In other words, if you've got products that you think are converting well when they get traffic, but they don't get enough traffic, you might prioritize increasing their traffic. Or if you've got items that get enough traffic and you really want to drive higher conversion with some secondary benefits as a result of the increased sales, you may prioritize lightning deals, vendor-powered coupons, or other promotions. And there's a lot of upside in paying for search position because almost instantaneously you can increase visibility of your products for frequently searched keywords. You can direct shoppers to your products during critical periods, new product launches or seasonality. You can counter competitive tactics like competitors sponsoring your brands as an example. And you can encourage shoppers to subscribe to your product through programs like Subscribe and Save. That said, we've studied the impact that sponsorship can have on organic listing, and there is a benefit. So on average, products that were sponsored after the sponsorship ends kept about 40%, 47% of the search ranking lift from that sponsorship, which is probably, we believe, a function of the increased sales they get from the incremental traffic.
Keith, we have a question that came in here. Keith?
Yes, John.
Okay, the question is, what CPG companies are doing the best job of using Amazon search? Are the same ones doing well with Google search, or are these different companies?
It's a great question. I think, we study who's doing well with Amazon and e-commerce search. We don't pay as close attention to who's winning Google search, but I find the companies that are doing best are studying the very different approach to winning with Amazon as opposed to Google. We've seen many brands stumble when they take traditional SEO approaches and try to apply those without understanding how Amazon's algorithm or e-commerce are different from traditional search. That is, their keyword, they first tend to be too unfocused. They're looking at too many products, too many keywords. Secondly, they don't understand the organic levers that they need to pull to impact search, so they tend to disproportionately focus on paid search, and they tend to overspend because they're not necessarily paying close attention to the relationships between keyword search frequency, impacts on traffic, and ultimately impacts on sales. And it's not all their fault, because it's actually pretty challenging to get the right reporting and analytics all in one place to measure in Amazon search as one would Google search. So I would say the companies that are doing this most effectively have assigned somebody internally to understand and manage how to win with Amazon search. They've got a tool set that includes in-house and external tools that give them the insight and analytics they need to make decisions about where they'll get the highest yield, whether it's traffic, sales, or return on ad spend from optimizing both organic and paid search position.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know, John, if you're having this issue. The slides seem to be frozen for me at this point. I've been trying to advance slides for a couple minutes, but I can't.
It just advanced, Keith. You're on 79 right now. It just advanced one on my screen.
Okay, that's good. It's not on mine, but I actually can't see the slide on my screen.
It's be strategic when using paid search.
Perfect. Yeah, so if you do have the budget and you do choose to pay, a few ideas. One of the really incredible advantages of the digital shelf is that, unlike in a physical store, where you have to go through great effort from a category management and space planning point of view to cross-promote or cross-merchandise, if you have products in your portfolio that go better together or that go well with products in another category, you can sponsor keywords from that complementary category as a way of encouraging shoppers to add your product to the cart. You can also sponsor trade-up products. So, as we noted, organic listings do tend to favor lower-priced items, but if you've got a family of products in your portfolio and you'd like to trade shoppers up, sponsorship can be a way to raise your premium offering to the top of the page. And then finally, as a defensive move, certainly if you see intense competition from competitors that are sponsoring your branded keywords, depending on how focused you are on on playing defense, you may want to outbid those competitors. And so finally, just briefly, I think this is an area that's getting even more sophisticated as we speak. Artificial intelligence and voice search are already changing the game. It's interesting just this week to see the launch of the Echo Show that, like the original speaker, is responsive to voice commands but includes a screen, so that encouragingly, rather than just returning a single listing or 2 or 3 listings when somebody asks Alexa for a product, we believe this new device will show a list of products not unlike what you see on your phone or on your desktop. And relatedly, mobile itself, as I noted, is compressing the length of the average search query. So when people are at a keyboard, they tend to search longer terms or phrases. But on mobile, they are searching shorter words and fewer words. And so you've got to be even more sophisticated and targeted in optimizing the relevance of your title, keyword, title, bullets, and description. And visual search, which is still sort of emerging, but visual search does and will increasingly allow shoppers to search based on an image or by holding their phone's camera up to an item and looking for the same or similar items. So that there's all kinds of interesting developments on the horizon. And then, of course, there's personalization based on location, cart contents, and purchase history, and many other factors. And so most of that, thankfully, is still not widely adopted. But at the margins, there's a lot going on with search, both broadly and especially at the digital shelf. So we think this is an area that will only increase in importance. And hopefully today's session has been a good introduction and some detailed recommendations for what you can do to best position yourself.
Okay, more information is available at profitero.com, and you can contact Keith Anderson directly. His email is on the screen. We have one more question, Keith, and that is, what do you know about influencing voice search?
Sure. So I think that Amazon's Choice badge is the most influential thing we've detected that seems to determine which items are returned when somebody searches for a given phrase. It does depend to a degree on past purchases. So if you have purchased a specific item or a specific brand in the past, Alexa may return an item that isn't Amazon's Choice. But if it's your first time searching for a given term with the Echo, you will likely see Amazon's Choice. And again, the factors we're able to identify that seem to determine Amazon's Choice are relevance. So if you know which terms you need to win, be sure that your title, bullets, description, and the hidden keyword field contain those terms. Secondly, prioritize a 4.2 or higher average star rating. Thirdly, lower priced items tend to be favored. And fourthly, sales ultimately tends to be a factor. And so you can use some of the promotional vehicles like lightning deals or vendor-powered coupons to give yourself a temporary boost in sales that can have sustained upside.
Okay, thank you, Keith Anderson. That was excellent. We appreciate it. And again, you can reach out to Keith on that email on the screen.